What is a person worth? By that engineer. Luck. When someone utters this very word, it makes them question if such a thing even exists. Say by chance, you happen to get the last of an item you desperately wanted. Some would say that's good luck. In another example, you end up caught in a freak rainstorm that results in your car getting totaled. Back luck. Contrary to popular belief, luck does not exist. What we see and do is based on good or bad judgment combined with convenience. Many typical cases where luck can occur could happen at any day of the week by sheer coincidence or prior knowledge. But to a certain white-haired boy, the word might as well be a poison. The family was driving back from a rather hot day at the beach. The lads were able to enjoy themselves, all except Lincoln. Sitting in the rear of the van, he was still sweating like crazy in the squirrel costume his family was making him wear out of fear of their superstitions. He took the head off a number of times to vent out the heat, but every single time, Lola shouted at him to put it back on. It eventually got to the point where a few of his other sisters got on his case for it as well. The boy argued it was too hot for him to keep wearing the costume in the intense heat, and thankfully, Lisa backed up that claim. Being wary, Rita and Lynn Sr. allowed him 5 minutes out of the suit. It didn't even last that long, as, a minute out of his prison, Lana was caught up in the rip current. Lynn Jr. saved her, and all Lincoln got was more glares from his family. So without uttering a word, he put the suit back on. No more incidents happened since. The boy was panting hard inside the costume to try and regulate his body temperature. "Can I please take this thing off?" he begged. "No, Lincoln. What if the van breaks down again?" Lori stated. "It broke down several times before all of this happened," the boy muttered. "Can I at least have some water?" Luna, who was sitting next to the cooler, popped it open and tossed it to the young man. Using as much grip as he could to hold the bottle, Lincoln lifted the head enough to reveal his mouth before he hungrily drank down the contents. As he was chugging, he looked out the window and noticed a large sign for the beach. Rip Current Advisory. Use caution when swimming. He practically spat out his water on the back of the seat in front of him. "Wasn't that sign up when we got here?" he thought to himself. At that moment, Vanzilla hit a pothole, causing the boy to lose his grip on the still open water bottle. "Ah, come on!" he cried. His costume wasn't flexible enough to let him pick up his fallen drink. Lola noticed the floor was a bit wet under her seat, and given what Lincoln asked earlier, "Dad, Lincoln spilled his water on the floor." "Lincoln, you're keeping that costume on for the rest of the ride," Lynn Sr. commanded in a stern tone. "Yes, Dad," the boy replied in a defeated tone. He just hoped this ride wouldn't last forever. When the family finally got home, they talked about the fun times they had at the beach. At the same time, Lincoln was also chastised for taking off his suit. He argued he was allowed to, but this fell on deaf ears. The boy sulked up to his room, which wasn't boarded up, thankfully. Opening the door, he saw his little place of peace was stripped of all of its furniture. His clothing, laptop, and even toys were stacked in clear plastic storage bins. It looked more like an actual closet instead of a room to call his own now. Silently closing the door, Lincoln finally slipped out of his costume. He was smelly, sweaty, and the inside was no better. Due to not being allowed to use the bathroom without the costume on, and since there weren't any holes to use as an exit for his waist, he regrettably had to go inside the suit. Lincoln gave a heartfelt sigh as he felt his skin cool in the air-conditioned room, before staring at the costume in disgust. It's only been a day since Lynn's last game, and he was regretting his choice to use the costume. I should have picked something other than this stupid squirrel. As he continued to give the inanimate object his undivided attention at it, the more he felt his anger building up. This whole ordeal was unnecessary in his mind. Ah! All I wanted was some alone time, and this is my punishment? Why does my family believe in the superstitious junk so much? Lucy, I can understand, but after what happened at Grand Venture State Park, I stopped believing in anything to do with luck. Now that I think about it, I'm surprised even Lisa fell for my act. He ranted. He got what he wanted out of the whole ordeal. He was no longer dragged into his sister's activities, and now that he thought about it, when was the last time any of them supported him for anything? Sure, the boy wasn't as invested in more demanding hobbies like his siblings, but in very few cases did any of them show up for something like him. He ran for a marathon once, came dead last, and no one, including his family, were waiting for him in the stands. He even tried for karate at one instance, which resulted in a broken hand. His parents were there, but surprisingly Lynn wasn't, and she practices that martial art. Lola did show up for that kids pageant he, embarrassingly, signed up for, but only so she could laugh at him. It seemed that when he can make time for them, or more or less being dragged to their events, at least half the family shows up, yet when the roles are reversed, few, if at all, can attend. His irritation swelled momentarily before it was replaced by depression. Families are supposed to support each other. He didn't want to attend his sister's event, so why should they attend his? While it was nice to see his siblings succeed, Lincoln began to doubt they felt the same for him. Even when he wasn't in the mood, he found himself dragged to their activities, like with Lynn 2 weeks ago. He grew irate again, thinking about the sports fanatic. He finally gets dragged to one of her games and suddenly he's the bad guy? The boy would have denied it at first, but he saw this as his moment to get the free time he desperately desired. Lincoln slumped to the floor in defeat, pulling his eyes to his chest. His little lie didn't seem bad at first, but he let it fester for too long. Sleeping outside like Charles was definitely no picnic. No offense to the dog. Even when he told his family the truth, they passed it off as an actual lie. Had he not went for this costume, he would have been sleeping outside again. But did his family have to sell his furniture? He might as well be a stranger who was moving out. Do they really think less of me like this? Am I not even considered a brother or a son? Hot tears started to flow from Lincoln's eyes. Maybe his family didn't love him as much as he thought. He didn't know whether it was due to his gender or because of his habits. Maybe if he was female, he wouldn't be treated like this. His sister shared none of his interests, as proven when he wanted to do some of his activities with them. Even Lily may one day grow to be more like his other siblings than liking any of his hobbies. They all have differing personalities, yet they can get along just fine. When Lincoln is involved, the tension seems to mount for an unknown reason. He stopped his thoughts when the pungent smell of his costume reached his nose. Grimacing at it, he knew it needed to be cleaned thoroughly. The washing machine was too small, so he'd have to use the hose. The boy squirmed as he put it back on, his skin tingling every time it touched a wet spot. Lincoln resisted the urge to vomit before making his way down the hall. After all, his family would flip out if he wasn't wearing it within their sight.